In the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the Guyana Defence Force stands as the guardians of our borders and protectors of our people. Some carry the scars of battle, others the weight of history. These are their stories, raw, unfiltered, and told in whispers until now.
Even though we retired about 30 odd years, we're still friends and we're buddy, you know. We're
brothers from different mothers.
Yeah.
So there was this soldier going up with his bake and his mess pan with his black tea, and bullets start flying overhead. So he hit the ground. Bake gone rolling, mixing with mud, and the tea and everything threw away. So he went upstairs and he took over the gun position and said, "Oh, yeah, shooting." And he was in command of that gun with 1,200 rounds, belted rounds of the GPMG, and he fired all across by the Venezuelans, and they ran.
Going back to the Black Prince, Colonel Ep1, that was the soldier who sacrificed himself. He was the man who was trapped in the Totnauth aircraft when they had the New River uprising. And that was fantastic, you know. He was so dedicated and loyal to the army and to the country, right? That he strapped himself in the nose of the Totnauth when they had the new operation. In Tacoma, we never had things like flush toilets and these things, right? But today,
latrines.
Today it's different, you know. The soldiers training under a far more better conditions. Even to the water that we're using in Tacoma, we had to push it up the hill in a tank.
He turned to me and said, come. I know you. Come, get up, go in. You're not going in there. I said, I ain't moving a foot, me neighbor this. I saw a very short Indian corporal, 2 stripes on his hands. And I said, Mr. D, that short, thin chap, he had to do what I'm doing here? He said, yes, how you think he get 2 stripes? That man is known as Tacoma Lion. And can you remember his name?
Yeah, Ramdeo Totnauth.
Ramdeo Totnauth. I said, if he can do it, I can do it. After serving for a short while in the company, it was said that there's need to form a new unit called Recce Squadron. The only full rank was Gary Ramlagan. 70 plus men were selected to form Recce Squadron. But at the end of the assessment, only 36 remained.
Our platoon, we outran the British, the King's Regiment, a platoon from the King's Regiment. We outran them and we actually beat them in the run and shoot competition. We started the Colonel Ulrich Pilgrim Officer Cadet School in 1980 with course 10. I was instructor for 10 cadet courses. As a matter of fact, I rather believe that no one ever spent 7 calendar years at the cadet school other than me.
I was among the first batch of locally trained paratroopers.
If I had to relive my life, I will come back to the Guyana Defence Force.
I'm saying this here and now, that if I can relive my life, I'll be back in the Guyana Defence Force.
I'm 3655, warrant after class 2, retired.
And I am 2993, retired Staff Sergeant Stanford Leroy Conway.
I joined the Guyana Defence Force in March of 1974. And I went into Tacoma training. The very first day was very hard for me because after the truck landed us at Ep1 with all my kits, my web equipment, my 58 pack and my duffel bag, we were thrown off at Ichuni Tacoma Trail. And we had to walk from there straight into Tacoma for a whole night until next morning. And it was very, very hard and rough because from Civilian Street straight into the military and that type of walking, it took a toll on me, blistering on my legs and my feet and so on. However, I endured it and I came out successfully. And that was my training. After I joined the infantry, I went to a company and I went through a lot. I went to different locations, but I could remember one of my challenging one was the one in 1975 when I went to New River. And in New River, we had to establish an observation post next to the Dutch location in Coroni. Then the location commander there was Second Lieutenant Chabila Ramsarup, who became a colonel just before he retired. We walked for about 7 days to get to Coroni. Why? Because when we walked for the first day, we encountered a creek. And after that, there was a thick vegetation of bamboo. And it was totally impossible for us to actually go through. So we used the creek line that goes to the Quarantine River. And we walked for about 5 days more until we reached the observation post. We established an observation post. And that was the time when the Dutch gained independence. It was a bit frightening because they had the 21 gun salute for the celebrations. And just 4 of us at that time was a bit scary. However, the next morning they came across after they observed us and they said that they were celebrating their independence and they gave us some goodies and so on, part of their celebrations. And that was one of my encounters with the GDF at the border locations.
I joined the Guyana Defence Force, I think 2 years before my friend and brother. It's my brother from another mother. This is what I want, and many people know this during our tenure in the Army. And my experience is that there it was, I was a vegetarian. And I had my civilian bag with a 5-pound tin of select milk powder, a lot of porridge stuff and so forth, civilian clothes and civilian shoe, web equipment, 58-pack, and the, we call it the long one, the
duffel bag.
The duffel bag. And the boots was John White. And that got to be broken into. It wasn't broken in, it was given just like that. Fresh, off on CV Street, fresh boots from the stores. When we touched on it to come after 2 days and nights, sitting and sleeping on the bow of the boat, being wet with the rain and dried by the sun, we came off, and that first hill, there were some logs on the left side. I say, I can't make this. I can't make it. So I sat down there, and a sergeant who had known me from Berbice, name is Neville Day, the late Neville, W1 Neville Day. He turned to me and said, come, come, come. I know you. Come, get up, go in. You're not going in there. I said, I ain't moving a foot near with this. I said, when this boat coming back? He said, tomorrow morning. I said, well, I'm going to catch it. Here we are, right? At the set time. I saw a very short Indian corporal, 2 stripes on his hands. And I said, Mr. D, that short, thin chap, he had to do what I'm doing here? He said, yes, so you think he get 2 stripes? That man is known as Tacoma Lion. And can you remember his name?
Yeah, Ramdeo Chan.
Ramdeo Chan. I said, if he can do it, I can do it. And Ramdeo Chan was my motivating factor, motivating force that made me become a soldier. And as a matter of fact, after training, I was sent to D Company under the late Victor Delano Wilson, that we nicknamed the Lion, a name that I gave to him. And after serving for a short while in D Company, it was said that there's need to form a new unit called Recce Squadron. And Recce Squadron came out of the bowels of the then Recce platoon, which was headed by the late Colonel Hines. And this discussion was made by the hierarchy, whereby they say that you got to get a strong body of men, very fit and what have you, to form Recce Squadron. And negotiations were made with the British that sent a contingent here, and they were from the Special Air Service, SAS. And they came to train us. And the first aspect of our training was in Onjuk, map reading, navigation, and that was very tough, knowing that there's a mountainous area. And the final exercise up there in the assessment training is where it took us up the mountain from the base camp to Cococabaru, Camino Santa Maria, and so forth. And we were successful there. It was rough. It was rough. And the leader of Recce Squadron, I said the OC, the late Colonel Marcus Monroe, who was then a captain. And the two other officers were the late Captain George Davison and Second Lieutenant then Malcolm Williams, known as Malik. That was the formation. And the Sergeant Major was the late FSM Orville Ned.
Yeah.
While the Q, man of the Q streams, the late W. Clark, Winston Clark, KOI, King of Ignorance. And the sergeant, the only sergeant then, was the late W2 Horman Marshal Lotte.
Okay.
And the only full rank was Gary Ramligan. 70 plus men were selected to form Recce Squadron. But at the end of the assessment, only 36 remained. And before I continue, I would like you to delve into that aspect of your tenure.
Oh, the cadet school.
Yeah.
Actually, I went to England in 1979 at the full rank. And based on my performance, I was authorized to be a sergeant. So I was a platoon sergeant in England, and we had that run and shoot competition where our platoon, we outran the British, the King's Regiment, a platoon from the King's Regiment. We outran them and we actually beat them in the run and shoot competition. And when we returned from England, I was transferred to training corps. I did one recruit course as an instructor as a platoon sergeant, and then one junior NCO course in 1980, and I went straight, I was posted straight to the cadet school. And we started the Colonel Ulrich Pilgrim Officer Cadet School in 1980 with course 10. Half of the time that course 10 spent at the newly built Officer Cadet School. But course 11 actually started that course, started that school, and I was the instructor, I was the sergeant. And from there I spent 7 years. I was promoted to staff sergeant in 1984. after about 4 years as a sergeant. And I was instructor for 10 cadet courses. As a matter of fact, I rather believe that no one ever spent 7 calendar years at the cadet school other than me, until I was transferred when I requested the then force commander. I had an interview with him and I told him that I find myself, when I go home, I started to shout on my wife and my children, you know, in the way that you're dealing with cadets. It started to take an effect on my home life. So then he decided, he instructed that I must be transferred immediately. But before I went to the cadet school, in a rifle company, I went to Purima, and we had to do a patrol going to Kaikan, and that was the next. We had to go through jungle, very mountainous, and we established an observation post at Krabu Mountain. Up Krabu Mountain, you could actually see or hear the Venus aircraft traversing the area, and we had to report on a daily basis any observations and so on. But it's very rough. If you go to Krabu Mountain in the rainy season, or in the dry season, and the rain catch you up there, when you return, it's a terrible time, because the creeks, they overflow, they get very wide and very rough. So that was one of the hard time up Krabu Mountain. So I will go on after my colleague.
Okay. Before I continue delving into the history of Recce Squadron, I could remember in the rifle unit, and I think that you could remember this story too, Toots, where you find right at Ettering Bank,
Yes.
whenever there was a change over of the Venezuelan soldiers at on the opposite bank there at
on Coco.
Good. What you find they would do, they would shoot across. A lot of bullets flying left, right, and center. And there was this soldier who had to take over the gun position that specific morning. Because when you have your breakfast downstairs, and you going upstairs, climbing that mountain, that hill, to go and take over from the other soldier now, manning the gun for the day. 1 hour after you're hungry, this if you ate downstairs.
Yes.
So there was this soldier going up with his bake and his mess pan with his black tea, and bullets start flying overhead. So he hit the ground. Bake, gone rolling, mixing with mud, and the tea and everything threw away. So he went upstairs and he took over the gun position. And he said, oh, yeah, shooting? And he was in command of that gun with 1,200 rounds, belted rounds of the GPMG, and he fired all across by the Venezuelans, and they ran. I think he was promoted.
Yes. His number was 1393, Singh. He was given on the spot promotion.
That was Miss Squaddy.
Yes, he was promoted on the spot because when the Venus was firing and he returned fire, I understand some Venus actually was coming up the hill to a point, and after he fired at them, they turned back.
They shouted and they ran.
They retreated and they ran. And Singh was given on the spot promotion, 1393 Singh.
Yeah, not my Squaddy.
Yes.
Now, what I found happen now with Recce Squadron, if you can remember with the Rupununi uprising,
Yes.
when the government of the day had confiscated the cattle that were owned by the Harts and Melvilles, and soldiers would have loved to go and spend some time in that area, but at a place called Meta Zero, Because horseback riding, you know. You feel good about that. And
I think it's one of the biggest ranch in Guyana.
yes,
at the moment.
it was. And what you found happened, rustlers used to steal the cattle. And we got word. And there it was, Marcus Monroe, on a small team from Recce Squadron, left for that area, slept during the day in patches of jungle, and walked in the night for 9 nights and caught the rustlers, brought them, took them to let them, hand them over to the police, and that was it. But what I looked at, after Marcus Monroe had left Recce Squadron, he was taken over then by Victor Wilson, the Lion.
Yes, that's right.
And you know, every time we would have to be doing on an annual basis the Totnauth walk and so forth. I think it still happens in the GDF here now. But what we had going is that with your annual Chief of Staff inspection,
Yeah.
that was something rough. Because you got to give him the 6 mile too.
Exactly.
So you got to give your platoon commander the 6 mile, your company commander 6 mile.
And the chief.
No, before the
Chief
Chief of
Command.
Staff, you got to give, remember, come for BOC and IOC,
Oh, yes.
and then the Chief of Staff. Now, what Victor Wilson had decided to do, we're not doing any 30 mile walk now. Backlands. We started with walking from Hubu, come in the backlands, catch Canal Polo, number 1, run across the bridge, and then come to Angano. Next, we move from, I think it's what, 5-door coca or 4-door coca?
Yes, to Land of Canaan.
Land of Canaan. Walk from Land of Canaan,
To Cane Grove.
catch the back down, then come out.
To Cane Grove.
No, Micah.
Mike, well, Cane Grove.
Yeah,
through Cane
okay.
Grove, through Cane Grove to
Through
Mike.
Cane Grove and come out there. Tough, backlands.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Swamp.
whole thing was that they're saying, as a member of Recce Squadron, we were being paid one above the rank, the salary, where
Yes.
private receives a lance corporal salary and what the case may be. And in unlike the rifle company that has platoons, Recce Squadron had troops. You had the airborne troop, CQB, motorized and amphibious. And in 1975, bilateral agreement between Guyana and Cuba, we sent 3 men to Cuba to be trained as jump masters. And those 3 men were the late Lieutenant Lenny Davis,
Yes.
the late W2 Cleveland Joey Walcott, and Michael Francis, who's residing in the States. Those were the 3 jump masters. So on their return, I was among the first batch of locally trained paratroopers.
Paratroopers.
And because of the rigors in training and the promise that was made to members of Recce Squadron, where it was said that, look, you will become a generalist. You come as a private, after 5 years service, you leave as a sergeant. But that never materialized. But the training was there. And what you found happen, you had wanted soldiers who were already trained and not the recruits.
Yeah.
And the soldiers said, not for a few dollars more, we ain't coming. The insignia was that of the knight. And they used to call us the horse soldiers. They ain't coming. Because, take the camera for example, that was a home. While you're running 6 miles, we were doing 9 miles morning and afternoon. The horse soldiers. It happened so that changes came about where the late George Davison took over from Victor Wilson as OC Recce. Then it was changed to Malik Williams. And then in 1981, Recce Squadron became A Recce company with Walter Sargent as the OC. And during that period, we were, you remember they had that coup attempt in Suriname with Brunswick.
Yes.
And it was said that Brunswick and his men had come across to Guyana. So we were Recce squadron men, A Recce company, were sent to Coriverton. As a sergeant, I took my troops and I was based at Crabwood Creek. There we would do long-range patrols, moving along the riverine area until we reached Oriala. But we didn't see any signs of Brunswick. The point I want to make, then, on our return, Victor Wills, who was, I think, SO1G1, then came up to see us. And he said, gentlemen, we'll be expanding this unit. There is a current course being run into Camel, the only course where the recruits were wearing yachting shoes. You could remember them, the yachting boots?
Yeah.
He said that there will be the formation of a battalion called Special Forces.
You see the training, what's happening now in the GDF is far different than what was happening in our days. Far different. When you went to, for example, in training, in Tacoma, we never had things like flush toilets and these things, right? But today,
latrines.
Today it's different. You know, the soldiers training under a far more better conditions. Even to the water that we're using in Tacoma, we have to push it up the hill in a tank. Today the soldier get a pump pumping up the water, up the bathing upstairs, you know. They're having a good bath and a good meals and everything upstairs. It was totally different. Today the soldiers in the border, they have internet. In our days, we have to wait until the aircraft visit our location and then write a letter for a family to know what we're doing, how we're doing, and so on. So the environment, it completely changed from then to now.
There's a better
I
man
could
for them.
remember I went on a patrol from Good Hope in the North Savannas, North Rupununi, and I went to a village by the name of Toka, and there I met this guy. Everybody in this village, the surname is Singh. So I inquired why everybody is Singh. You tell me, I said, look, see the old man? Go and talk to the old man. So there was this guy, about 75 years, I had an interview with him, and he said he's 75 years of age. And when he was 25 years, he committed murder in LBI. And he went through the trail to let him. He went to Mokomoko, and he took this young Armenian girl, and he moved back to the Pakaraimas. Mokomoko is at the foot of the Kanuku Mountains. So he took this girl from there, and he carried her to the foot of the Pakaraimas. And he had 19 children with her. And everybody was Singh. So the girls who went out the village, they gone with their husband title. And those that came in, the girls, they remain Singh. So everybody in the village is Singh. They have the church and the school. It was a good experience, you know. And when the man was even telling us, listen, LBI still have tram cars. You know, after 50 years, he wanted to know if LBI still have tram cars and low G. I know, it's totally different. So going in the interior, it would be adventurous. In as much as it would be challenging because you had to walk on long patrols, and you had to carry your ration, your radio set, your kit, your weapon. You had to walk for distance, sometimes 4, 5, 10 days, you know. But even though it was challenging, as a professional soldier, we enjoyed it. Personally, I enjoyed it because, you see places, you see different people, you know.
And not only that, the training prepares you for future eventualities, obstacles that you will cross, because the preparation was there, both mind and body. And if I go back to the Recce Squadron, you found that we had officers like the now Prime Minister, former Chief of Staff, Brigadier retired
Mark Phillips.
Mark Phillips.
Yeah.
He was from Recce Squadron too. You had people like Christopher, I am trying to remember his name, but a number of officers passed through there. I did the first set with from Fraser, Vernet Fraser. And in 1982, after the formation of Special Forces, it came under the leadership of the late Lieutenant Colonel Hartley Liverpool, Black Prince. And that is where they had the formation of Recce Squadron, now became 3-1 Airborne. Then you had 3-2 Jungle Company and 3-3 Amphibious Company, headed by this man from, he's now residing in the States. I'm trying to remember his name.
I'm just going back to Colonel.
No, let me just finish this one part here. And this is where you found that they had established this training school, the amphibious aspect of it. Congraves, Monty Congraves.
Yeah.
He was the head of the amphibious company, where they opened the school at Macora, where the British and the Americans all come to be trained there. You understand me? Yeah. And as time moved on, former Chief of Staff Michael Atterley, he took over from Black Prince to become the head of Special Forces.
Going back to the Black Prince, Colonel Liverpool, that was the soldier who sacrificed himself. He was the man who was trapped in the Totnauth aircraft when they had the New River uprising, and that was fantastic. You know, he was so dedicated and loyal to the army and to the country, right? That he strapped himself in the nose of the Totnauth when they had the New River operation, and that was great. I would never forget him. I worked with him in the training corps. Great soldier, you know. And I was thinking that some part of the GDF should be named after him. I don't know if that can be possible. Coming back to the training of cadets, walking from Timeri docks, crossed over to the Sand Hills, and to Macora. I did that for about 12 times. And it was just fun for me, it becomes fun. Going through the jungle in training. And when you get to Macora, you go to Bartica by boat, you know, and back to Rockstone. A lot of walking. I personally walked from Timeri, Sand Hill to Macora, to Bartica by boat, then to Itabo Imbatiro crossing, and go on to the Taktu Basin on exercise Green Heart. Right? I went to that exercise on 2 occasions. But the thing about it, it's more or less how you could endure it. How you could endure it through the rough terrain, and you know.
Yeah, even exercise that we had, Homeland.
That's at Burma, my cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on that exercise also.
Yeah. And what I can remember there, especially at QPOX training cadets, many of them, you would have found that they are from, let me say, the upper class. They didn't know how to wash their own clothes. Maybe the only thing they had known to do is boil water, some of them. And the rigors in going through the training there with QPOX, it was of such that some of them used to cry. They used to cry. But they end up at the end of it learning to cook, because when you have exercises, they will have the ration And you got to cook, and you got to cook very fast. Because you could remember when they're taking long to cook, you say, okay, time up.
Time up. We got to start. We got to move.
And the thing about it, I always found that cadets were always hungry. Always hungry. And the beauty of the training is that I had found that just a small fraction of them would have held us in their minds for the rigors that they would have had to go through, saying that we have been punishing them or what the case may be, but not realizing that we are preparing you for the future. Because you now will be given orders, because in some time to come, you will be giving orders to people, your subordinates. And what you found happen, many of them appreciated it. They appreciated it.
I'm Stanford, it's an honor for when you're in the cadet school and you train somebody, senior people, senior person in the country today. For example, I was the instructor with 3 chief of staff. 3 of my cadets become chief of staff. One of my cadets become a commissioner of police. One of my cadets become the director of prison.
There was Dale.
The President, Mr. Dale Erskine, then the President Prime Minister. I worked with him when he returned from Sandhurst. I joined the cadet school as an ensign. So he was part of training while I was an instructor, and he becomes a PI. So it was great. It was an honor, and I really enjoyed the Guyana Defence Force. Because of that, I retire. After I retire, I'm back to civilian life as a farmer.
I would like to say that the Guyana Defence Force has molded me to be the person that I am today. Even though I am now at a stage of suffering with my vision, impaired vision because I have glaucoma. But throughout the military life, it has prepared me in such a way that where education is concerned, 3 times I've graduated from the University of Guyana. And this is due to the preparations and the ability that my superiors had seen in me and gave me that opportunity to make me a better person. And finally, I would like to say that though going through all of those rigors and everything, it had caused some disturbance in family life. Being away for very long periods, and most of these women will tell you, I'm faithful to you to the end, and then you find it differently. Right? I had experienced that. But I'm saying this here and now, that if I can relive my life, I'll be back in the Guyana Defence Force.
It was a pleasure serving the Guyana Defence Force, and I really enjoyed it. If I had to relive my life, I will come back to the Guyana Defence Force.
Look, as a matter of fact, I joined the Guyana Defence Force 2 years before this man here. And we are now retirees. And we go back a very long way. Togetherness. And what I would like to say where he is concerned, or our relationship is concerned, is that in the Guyana Defence Force, you know that you are your brother's keeper. You watch my back, and I watch your back. And we've been watching each other's back for many years, and even as we reach this stage, I ain't seen too good, but I could still watch his back.
Yeah, we retired, we're talking about 45, 50 years now, that even though we retired about 30 odd years, we're still friends, and we're buddy, we're
brothers from different mothers.